Hey everyone, welcome to the Danker Family Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Jensen. It is the Week 10 recap. 10 weeks into the season already. That is just quite amazing. Time flies just so fast. It's almost unfair. Um, Speaking of things that are unfair and sad, the Padres owner, Peter Seidler, I know this is not football related, but it's still pretty tragic. Padres owner and general partner Peter Seidler passed away earlier today, and I decided to rock the newly acquired Padre polo, courtesy of Uncle Tom. Thank you, Uncle Tom. This definitely came in handy today. I really appreciate it. Peter Sadler was a great man. I got to meet him a few times. Very fortunate enough to have him come to one of my club meetings when I was in San Diego State, and he really was just a great human being, very compassionate man, very great, loving, caring person. And he really cared about the Padres and the success in San Diego. So rest in peace to Peter Seidler. Moment of silence. All right, now back to football. Let me go ahead and share my screen here to get things started. So looking at the standings after week 10, and a lot of things haven't changed, but there are a few interesting noted things to note. Obviously, it's starting the West. Uncle Tom leading the division still. What's new? He's 9-1, just dominating. Has only lost one game, and Nashville Packer fan Dad was the only one who's able to beat him. So we'll see if Tom will continue his reign on this league. Joan in second place at 6-4. With John Lopp just one game behind her at 5-5 in third, and then you got myself and Garrett. I'm at 3-7. I'm on a two-game win streak, so things are finally looking up for me as if it matters really. And Garrett's down at 2-8. Garrett has been officially eliminated from the playoffs. He is at a 0% playoff chance. So we have our first eliminated player in terms of playoff contention in Garrett. In the East, we got a two-way tie for first. Ben and Adrian both at 6-4, and Carey and Nels both at a two-way tie for second at 5-5. Ben and Adrian were two games up each on Carey and Nels going into this past weekend, but they did not pounce on that opportunity. They both lost, and Carey and Nels both won. So now Carey and Nels have a interesting little shot at trying to take over the East. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. And then Aunt Carol down, bringing up the rear, 3-7. She's kind of with me. We're kind of just her, Garrett and I are just kind of playing spoiler right now. We're just trying to make things tough for our opponents, and two of us were able to do that this past weekend, and we'll get into that. Actually, I think only one of us. Never mind, one of the three of us. But then obviously, looking at the season stats, points for very much aligning with the overall rankings. I mean, you got Tom and the only one at 1,300. Then the top four are the four playoff teams with Tom, Ben, Adrian, and Joan. And then you got the three middle of the pack and John, Nelson, Carey, and then Carol, myself, and Garrett all at the bottom. So the points for has been very telling. Not so much points against. Points against is very strange, very up and down. Because you got like Joan, who's in playoff contention right now, she's sixth in points against. So it's very interesting how that's worked. Like myself, um, Nels, we're in the top five in points against. So yeah, it's just interesting. Well, not sure how that really matters, but just thought I'd point that out. And then looking at some streaks, Uncle Tom, 4-game win streak. Ever since his loss to Nels, he has been on fire. And then also myself and Carey, look at us Jensens winning two in a row. So good on us for getting on a little bit of a win streak. And then down at the losing, you got Ben and Carol have lost two in a row. Ben definitely. I mean, he was only one game behind Tom for first in the league two weeks ago. Now he's starting to fall a bit. I mean, he's still number one in the division, but it's getting tight. So Ben's got a lot to think about. And also, yeah, Garrett having lost seven in a row. He started the season 2-1, and ever since, just it's been all downhill. And because of that, he's now been eliminated from the playoffs. So tough, tough year for Garrett, that's for sure. Looking at the scoreboard now from this past weekend, a lot of interesting things happened. For most points, obviously, it's going to go to John Lopp with 150.72. That's a very good job well done. And it's interesting because his opponent, Garrett, had the second most points. So he had, Garrett, if he would have played anyone else other than John, he would have won. He would have broken that long losing streak, but he just so happened to be playing John this week. So uh, just unbelievable tough luck for Garrett. The bottom two scorers of the week also faced each other in Nelson Ben. So it's funny because you have the two top scorers face each other and the two worst scorers face each other. So yeah, and that's great luck for Dad, getting 105 points and winning. I had picked him as the luckiest winner of the week because he had the second fewest points of anyone. Um, and then Ben obviously got the fewest points with 95. Very inauspicious performance from Ben's team. Best win probably goes to Uncle Tom. I mean, by default, he had the highest margin of victory. He won by 29.48 points over Joan. And obviously he's continuing his domination, even with some of his best players on buys. Um, Toughest loss, yeah, I got to go give that one. So toughest loss, I put as Ben, just because he lost by the closest margin by 10 points. But you also got honorable mentions in Garrett, scoring the second most points in the entire of all the teams in the league, yet losing, and also Adrian because Adrian had a prime opportunity to pounce on a weak opponent in myself, and beat me and take sole possession of first place in the East. Couldn't get it done, Adrian. Couldn't get it done, man. Couldn't beat me. Wow, man. How? We'll get into how. So moving in to the actual matchups themselves. Uh, First matchup, obviously, myself versus Adrian. And um, uh, fun fact, I got most of the picks wrong, as usual. So I got this one wrong. I predicted that Adrian would win, and I happily was wrong. Keenan Allen, 40.5 points. Just another great performance. He's been easily, without a doubt, my best, most productive fantasy player on my team. Dalton Kincaid helped me out with 16. Geno Smith got me 24. The Jets defense got me 10, and my kicker, Dustin Hopkins, even he came in clutch and got 14 points. He got that game-winning field goal against the Ravens. So those are my top performers for Adrian. He had Sam Howell do pretty well. He had CeeDee Lamb go for 39.5. Now, CeeDee Lamb was great, Adrian, but he wasn't Keenan Allen great. Yeah, Keenan Allen only got 1 point more, but still, yeah, I'm gonna rub this one in Adrian's face for quite a while. So, but yeah, I mean, other than those two, I mean, yeah, Stevenson got 13.2, but that's still under what he was projected. So not nothing much else from Adrian's team. Obviously he only had two good performers, and looking at his bench, there really wasn't anything Adrian could have done differently to overcome this deficit. So I think it was just some tough luck for Adrian. Nothing he could have done for me. Obviously I was carried by by a lot of good players. I was carried by Keenan Allen and a little bit of Geno Smith on that final drive for Seattle, and Kincaid coming up nice and giving me some cushion. In last Monday night's game against Denver. And then yeah, just like the special teamers, the defense and the kicker. So um yeah, they just helped me out this week and it worked out. So my bench, and I was worried too because my bench did pretty well. I didn't play Devin Singletary. He was one of the best running backs in all fantasy this week. Tank Dell, I didn't start him. Jerome Ford, and 49ers defense, right? Like I could have won this game easily. There are things I could have done even better to make this a more crushing defeat. But yeah, I mean that's the past. But looking forward, I'm continuing to play spoiler, so I'm just trying to figure out ways to really mess up my opponent's strategies on getting to the playoffs. So, do I start Tank Dell? He's been playing pretty well recently. I'm probably thinking about starting him. Puka Nacua is going to come off bye next week. Does he get back into things with Matthew Stafford getting healthy? Tua will return next week. A bit like the defenses are going to be very interesting to figure out because these are three pretty good defenses in Buffalo, San Francisco, and New York. So that'll be uh, you know, what do you call it, a committee kind of situation. And even my running back situation is a little bit better. Obviously, these two, Henry and Pollard, didn't do well, but they're both number one running backs, and they both have really good matchups next week. And they even got Jerome Ford and Devin Singletary as backups, so that's pretty good, I'd say. Not playoff contention good. Don't even worry about that. But yeah. And then for Adrian, obviously this was just a tough luck week. Guys, like Gus Edwards didn't didn't do anything well. DeAndre Hopkins didn't do well. Mark Andrews, Stephon Diggs, so it's just you got too many players in single digits. You only have three players in double digits, and other than that, um, the rest of your guys, the bulk of your lineup just didn't come through for you, Adrian. Um, and then looking forward, DeAndre Swift coming back should help next week. Um, I'm not sure. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson's going to be on a bye, so he'll probably just replace him in the lineup for sure. So that should help, and we'll see how things turn out for Adrian moving forward. Drake London's going to be on a bye, so he doesn't worry about have to worry about what wide receiver to play because he'll definitely be playing probably these three. I'm assuming moving forward, but I got the win, so I get the bragging rights. Adrian, you might win the season, but you and me, bro, I got this one. All right, moving on to Carroll versus Carey. I got this one wrong as well. I predicted Carroll would win. Carey got the victory, getting her second win in a row. So looking at obviously for Carroll, she had Jamar Chase do well with 23 points. She had Rashad White. He's been surprisingly good the last couple of weeks. He's definitely rising up in terms of, you know, things players to think about next year and moving forward. For fantasy running backs, he's been very impressive. Um, Baker Mayfield had a decent game, 18 points for him, and the Ravens defense and the kicker. Whenever your kicker gets double digits, that's always good. So um, you know, having the Ravens defense helps. They had a lot more than 13, but when Cleveland came back, it just that number kept coming down and down. But even then, 13 is a great amount to have for a defensive performance. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough this time because Carey had Dak, she had Jahmyr Gibbs, and she had Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that's all she really needed, honestly. I mean, not really. You kind of need all these other guys too to make the official the official point score to get 130. But you know what I mean. These three definitely carried Carey. Dak just having an insane game against the Giants. Jahmyr Gibbs has been going off recently, and I that's one thing I mentioned earlier in the season. I said Carey's got to be patient with Jahmyr Gibbs because he wasn't going to be great right off the bat, because he was a rookie. They're going to ease him into the offense, and it's been it's been going really well for Jahmyr Gibbs lately, and he's definitely showing that he's one of the more dynamic, more fascinating running backs in fantasy football this season. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, the guy's just a gift from God. So uh, Carrie's probably really happy to have him, and they're helping her stay afloat in the playoff race. Um, Obviously, those three pulled for Carrie. And for Aunt Carroll, those really three players that let her down, and it was these three are here: Dotson, Laporta, and Ingram. Um, yeah, I thought Dotson would have a good game. He'd been playing well recently, but just didn't get anything against Seattle. So that really it's really hard to trust him. He's very, back and forth now. He's either going to be really good or really bad, and that's really hard to trust. Zay Flowers had a decent game. Is a guy you could have started. Obviously, Nico Collins was out, so you couldn't start him. So that was kind of a tough luck decision there, or tough luck there with that one. Laporta had a down game. I mean, that's nothing. He'll do a lot better, especially in the next coming weeks when he plays Chicago and Green Bay. He'll dominate those ones. Ingram, yeah, I mean, again, I'm not too big on him, but yeah, those three guys definitely let Carroll down for sure. And then moving forward, some of her returners should help. Jalen Hurts, Isaiah Pacheco, they'll return next week from byes. Zay Flowers, she might think about starting him on Thursday Night Football. It's going to be a quick turnaround against the Bengals. And then if Nico Collins is healthy, maybe put him in at flex instead of Evan Ingram. But again, that's totally up to her. For Carey, I'd say, Dak's been playing well of late, so stick with him. Stick with Dak. I think he's got a pretty nice couple of next couple of games for him too, for his upcoming games. So I think he'll be your solid starter moving forward now since she had Kirk Cousins before and she was going back and forth between Trevor Lawrence and Kirk Cousins. I think you should probably stick with Dak. He's been he's been playing a lot better and Trevor Lawrence has been very up and down. Can't really trust him much. And then also for Carey, she's probably got to find a new tight end and new defense. Patriots defense is going to be on a bye, so she'll definitely need a new defense. Cade Otton had that one good game a few weeks ago, but he's not someone that I don't think you could trust, especially going up against San Francisco's defense on the road next week. So it's going to be tough for Cade Otton. Might want to think about getting a new tight end, Carey. But everything else looks pretty good. So moving on to the next game, Tom versus Joan, another one that I got wrong. I was I picked Joan to win this because I thought there was some optimism there with some of these players on like with Tyreek Hill, with Patrick Mahomes, with Devontae Smith on buys. I just figured, there was enough of an opportunity there where Mom's team could win, but unfortunately that was not the case. Tom had Kenneth Walker who finally bounced back. He was going down, he was going downhill ever since like what week 5 or week 6, and he finally had his bounce back game against Washington. So good for Kenneth Walker. Kyler Murray, he had a decent game for his first game back. He's getting higher than his projection. Brandon Ayuk had a good game. Hawkinson was incredible. He was the real difference maker. When Tom basically wins by 30 points, TJ Hawkinson gets you 30. He was obviously the key for this game. But then also David Montgomery came back from injury and he had a great 75-yard touchdown run against the Chargers. The Browns defense did pretty well late in that game against the Ravens, which boosted him to 15. He only had two players in single digits, and all of his players except for those two got 12 or more points. So he had seven players in that 12 plus point category, which when that happens, it's usually a recipe for success. So that was definitely a reason why Tom won that game. For Mom, she had Austin Eckler, 21 points. He had a great game. Christian Kirk had a good game, 14 points. Garrett Wilson was great. He had 18. The Cowboys defense getting you 11. Always take the defense getting you double digits. But other than that, it was just really tough luck. There really wasn't anything Mom could have done differently. Even if she played Brock Purdy, um, yeah, it wouldn't have done anything because there was only like a 9 point difference there, and she lost by more than nine. So yeah, it was just kind of tough luck for Mom with buys and injuries. Obviously Raheem Mostert coming back next week should help replace Madison in that lineup. Madison's got hurt too, so that'll make things a lot easier for Mom's decision making in terms of who to play at running back. Um, yeah, and then do we dare see Mom start Brock Purdy over Josh Allen in fantasy next week? I mean, Josh Allen's playing the Jets, and Josh Allen hasn't been playing well of late, and his worst performance of the season was week 1 against the Jets. He only got 9 points that day. So, and Brock Purdy's, you know, he's been playing okay. He's been playing pretty well. So we'll see. We'll see how that decision turns out for Mom. What she decides. For Tom, obviously he's got key players returning. Tyreek Hill's coming back. Mahomes coming back. Smith's coming back. So he'll probably play all the three of those guys. Doesn't need to worry about playing Watson anymore. That was just for this week. Whatever, and it didn't cost him, luckily. So um, good on you there, Tom. And then he also, yeah, he's probably gonna obviously Mahomes gonna play, so he doesn't need to have to worry about Kyler Murray. So he'll have Mahomes be playing in there. Um, but yeah, he will have a little bit of a dilemma at who to go with at flex, whether he wants to go with Devontae Smith or or David Montgomery, or maybe move David Montgomery one of these running backs and bench. I don't know. That's a great problem to have for Tom. So we'll see how it pans out. Next game, Nels versus Ben. This was the only one I got right. I predicted Nels would beat Ben, and he did. Nels coming off those two big trades he made before the weekend, and it really proved to help him out. Najee Harris getting you 18 points. Man, I wish he would have gotten me 18 points. But then again, Najee Harris does not play the Packers defense every week. So yes, Nels, Najee got you 18. He did well. Don't expect that moving forward. I'm just saying, do not expect it. Especially next week against the Browns defense. Browns are one of the best run defense in all football. Ew, that's gonna be a tough month, especially when he's splitting time with Jalen Warren in the backfield. Anyway, I'm looking too far forward. This is about recapping this week. Najee Harris got 18.6 points. Michael Pittman had another great game. Devontae Adams had a decent game, 14 points. Javonte Williams, 21 points. That really boosted you last night because he was your only player last night, I believe, and you were still losing to Ben by that point. He really made you sweat it out, but near the end of the game, you really started to get a lot more points. So Javonte Williams, the playing hero for Nels this week. And then for Ben, obviously he had Christian McCaffrey, who literally hit his projection at 20.2. It's like the third time he's done that this season where he's hit his exact projected number. And then he also had Amari Cooper at 15 points, the Colts defense 13, David Njoku 11. But yeah, I mean, obviously you can see, Ben's quarterback, Derek Carr, only 5 points. Travis Etienne had a bad game against San Francisco's great defense. Calvin Ridley has been god awful the like 4 of the last 5 weeks. And I would really, if I were Ben, I would definitely consider replacing him with someone else. Obviously, AJ Brown's gonna be coming back off bye next week, but probably replace Calvin Ridley with Cooper or Godwin or maybe even Tyler Boyd. I don't know. Someone Ridley has just not been looking good ever since like the first quarter of the season. Um, yeah, and he was let down by all those players. So definitely didn't help Ben out there with these three in particular, or these four in particular. Chris Godwin, I mean, he had 9 points, so didn't really have him out either. He hasn't really done much since Brady left Tampa. Chris Godwin hasn't really had a decent game really this year, so that's been very interesting to see. And then for Nels, obviously, you know, the new guys pulled through for you, right? Najee Harris pulled through, Devontae Adams did well, Saquon Barkley. I mean, he only got 7 points, but hey, it helped you out in the margin of victory. One thing that is a little concerning, Lamar Jackson, like the Ravens, when they're scoring a lot of points, Lamar Jackson's not getting many points. He's had like 3 of his last 4 weeks. He's had 11 or 10 or like in the low teens. Um, he had one 30 plus point game, like I think 2 weeks ago, but yeah, he's been the Ravens have been successful when Lamar hasn't. So that's a little concerning. So um, not saying you need a new quarterback or anything. It's just he's got to, for if Dad's going to want to continue to have success in fantasy, he's got to hope that Lamar Jackson plays a lot better. Um, yeah. So and then looking forward, Nelson's got some solid options, really. I mean, Brian Robinson's been an up and down guy, but he had a great game. James Conner on his bench, like his running back depth is actually looking really good now. And then Cooper Kupp, he got Cooper Kupp in a trade with John Lopp, so he'll be able to start him with Michael Pittman on a bye next week. And then maybe he even plays Deebo Samuel, or he has Javonte Williams to go with, Najee Harris, Saquon Barkley. I mean, he's got a lot of options, so he's starting to slowly build up that depth in the running back and wide receiver category. Now, Taysom Hill's going to be on a bye next week, so he's going to need a temporary tight end next week. So we'll see how that goes for him. I'm guessing he'll probably drop one of his three defenses to pick up a tight end, or maybe he drops Miles Sanders. I don't know, but yeah, it's yeah, definitely will probably need a new or not probably, he will need a new tight end for next week. Um, and then for Ben, yeah, I mean, AJ Brown's going to return, so that should help. And then obviously, like I said, think about replacing Ridley in that lineup with Cooper, Godwin, Boyd, maybe even Jacoby Myers. And then is Ben really going to trust Justin Fields first game back against Detroit on the road? It's gonna be tough. I mean, obviously Derek Carr is hurt, so he's gonna be on a bye next week anyway, so you can't play him. So if he sticks with Justin Fields, that's a tough decision. I mean, he played a little bit well up until his injury, but against Detroit's defense, I mean, we'll see how it goes. And then moving on to the final matchup, John Lopp and Garrett. I got this one wrong as well. So I got one right, four wrong. So my overall record is exactly 25 and 25. I am 500. I've gotten the exact same amount of picks right as I've gotten wrong, which, hey, I guess that's fantasy, right? You never know. Everything's literally 50-50 so far this season. But yeah, looking at this one, John Lopp, Justin Herbert, 28 points. I mean, if not, why am I even going? I shouldn't even go player to player for John. Literally everyone except for his defense and kicker did well. I mean, like, and that's what happened. He had the most points of any team this week. Herbert 28, Bijan 17, Kamara 18, Lockett 23, Olave 21, McBride 21. That was incredible. John finally gets a great performance from a tight end, and it's his backup tight end. Jonathan Taylor 14. So it's just like, he had 7 players get 14 plus points. That is just insane. Just a very overall healthy performance from John's lineup. For Garrett, Joe Burrow did well, Deontay Foreman did well, Metcalf, Evans 26 points, George Kittle had 20, even Cortland Sutton had 17. And I mean, obviously Garrett had the second most points. He just happened to be playing John. Poor Garrett, man. Poor Garrett. Because yeah, Garrett had a great production from his team this week. He just Aaron Jones didn't do well. Defense and kicker didn't do well either. But that's usually expected. Man, I feel for Garrett. He's had such a tough season, and he's been without Justin Jefferson too. So it's like it's man, it's been very tough to see that for him. Super tough luck, and there wasn't anything he could have done differently. Even if he had played Goff instead of Burrow, yeah, it wouldn't have mattered. So Yeah, just super tough luck. Moving on to the next week, for John, he's going to be hindered by a lot of buys. He's got both Robinson and Kamara, and all three of his running backs that were starting this past weekend are going to be on buys. So he's going to have to really, he's going to probably play Achan because I think Achan's coming off of IR this week. So he'll get him back, but he'll definitely need to pick up a new running back to add on to that to the starting lineup. And then I think what is it? Tyler Lock? No, not Lockett. Olave's on a bye. So yeah, and his kicker's on a bye too. So he's got a lot of bye players. So Jalen Waddle will be coming off the bye, so that'll help. Probably should think about playing Jordan Addison too. Um, but yeah, and does he go with CJ Stroud or Justin Herbert? Because I mean, they both played pretty well. I mean, obviously Herbert's been playing a lot better, but Stroud's got a little bit of a better matchup next week against the Cardinals defense. So I mean, we'll see how it goes, honestly. But he is going to get Travis Kelce back. So John will finally be able to play Travis Kelce, even though he just got a 21-point performance from Trey McBride of all guys. So yeah, and then Garrett moving forward, the only thing I could really think of is maybe start Jared Goff next week because Joe Burrow's going to be on the road on a short week on Thursday night at the Ravens, who are a really tough defense, and Jared Goff's going to be at home against the Bears. So I think that one I would personally would go with Goff over Burrow if Garrett even still cares at this point because he is eliminated from the playoffs already. But if you want to stay competitive and you want to play for pride, I would probably go with Goff over Burrow. But that's just me. So those are all the games from this past weekend. Just a final look at the standing projections after this week. So again, from draft day to now, you have Tom ranked first. Adrian is still ranked second, even though I beat him. Wow. Okay. Ben is at third. At fourth is Joan, which makes sense. Those are the four teams currently in playoff contention. Fifth, John Lopp. Sixth, Carey. Down to seventh is Nels. Wow. Even after making all those trades and after beating Ben, they still have him projected at seventh. Carol at eight, myself at nine, Garrett at 10. So with Garrett trending down the most and with trending up since draft day, Ben up seven, Adrian up four, and John Lopp up three. So that's today's video. Thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. 10 weeks in, it's gone by so fast. I will hopefully have a week 11 prediction video out sometime this weekend before Sunday. I will be traveling a little bit, so I'll be seeing Ben in Vegas. So we'll have some fun out there. But yeah, looking forward to next week coming up, week 11, and should be a good one. Got some interesting matchups that we'll dive into, and we'll see how things shape up playoff race wise. So hope all y'all have a good week, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.